Oh. Hey guys. I hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we got some special guests coming on. I'm excited for them to come and share because y'all know how I am. So I'm all about like sharing. I'm all about like finding different pathways to recovery. Okay. And recently I was here on TikTok one day and I found, sorry y'all know how I have to have a lip gloss. I found this page called the Freedom Model. Okay? The Freedom Model. Well, I started watching some of their videos and I could really resonate with a lot of what they were talking about when they made videos about the 12-step fellowship and their experience there and that kind of thing, right? And so I did fall down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I think that I want them to be able to come on here and share with you guys like what the Freedom Model is and how they came about like creating it and why they created it, because who knows, there might be some of you that do better with the Freedom Model than you do with like regular AA or NA or something like that. So I always try to be open-minded to different forms of recovery. Like I'm all about sharing all the different forms, you know? Okay, Tink. Hey, Mel. So I'm like never going to like try to like shut somebody off because they have a different pathway to recovery than me. You know what I mean? Like I always want, hey, what's up? I'm always trying to like share somebody else's path because I think it's important. And also, I'm on Suboxone. Like, what a hypocrite I would be if I was like blocking other people's recovery experiences out and not letting them share their paths to recovery. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I thought, you know what? I'm going to reach out to these people, see if they want to come on here and tell us about the Freedom Model and talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to upload this video on my YouTube channel. So if you miss it, you'll be able to rewatch it over there. But yeah, so we're just going to wait until they get here. I'm just going to check back and forth to see when they go live, and then I'll bring them up on stage. But because of you, we now have Mara coming. Yay! And Suboxone coming in December. Yay! Hey, Tiffany, what's up, girl? What do you need? So, I'm open-minded, yo. You know, before I came to TikTok, y'all, I was not as open-minded as I am now. Before I came to TikTok, I was like totally against medical marijuana. I hate to say that I was against it, but I was. Because I didn't understand I didn't understand how there could be like a therapeutic value, because the only time I ever did marijuana was when I was getting stoned out of my mind, you know? And the only thing I did when I would get stoned is eat a whole bunch of food. So like, how can this help people? Well, my sister ended up getting on medical marijuana, and my sister is so much happier now. Okay. It's helped her with her glaucoma. She has legit glaucoma. It's helped her with her glaucoma. And she's smart. She works for a dispensary. She knows all about the different strains and stuff. And so I fucking respect that. You know what I mean? I respect it. So my sister taught me, showed me the way, showed me about the medical marijuana. But just like, I think the reason why I was so biased or judgmental was because, and I don't know why I had this experience, because like I said, I'm on MAT, but I think it's because it was just ramrodded into my head, like abstinence, 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 that I even judged myself for being on subs. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even think I would even judge my own recovery, right? Because I was on Suboxone. So it took me a long time to get to a point where, you know what? I was like, I'm sober, I'm kicking ass and taking names, and anybody that has anything to say about it, can come and step to me. Okay? Like, come to me and let's see what you got going on, and let's debate it, I think everybody's debate is always like, oh, stop taking it and see what happens. I've stopped taking my Suboxone many times. Yeah, I go through some withdrawals, but I don't go out and get high, and I'm just fine. I've stopped taking my Lexapro too, and I go through withdrawal from that too. It's a mental health medication. And so you experience withdrawal from any medication that you've been taking for a long time, at least most of them, you know? Hey, Neil, is Jenna okay? My poor husband's dog. She's diabetic, okay? And this morning she was just sleeping all day, so I didn't want to wake her up. And I didn't give her diabetes shot. Well, today when my husband got home, he was like, "You forgot to give her a shot, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" She was sleeping all day. And he was like, "It really makes her not feel good." I didn't realize that it made her not feel that well, you know? So I feel bad now. I mean, like, for real. And I got so sick off of my Lexapro, like alpha Lexapro withdrawal, you guys, that I was legit fucking thinking about dying, okay? It made me feel like my head was disconnected from my body, dude. Like, for real. Okay, they're live. Let's do this. So, I'm excited.
Hey there. How are you?
So, okay, hold on. So, one thing before we get started. What is your first name?
Mark. And you are Nicole.
Mark. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, I was like, I wanted to say your name was Brian, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to call him Brian. I'm going to ask him what his name is.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to have you on because I'm like super open-minded to all kinds of different pathways to recovery. And one of the reasons why I am open-minded is because I was brought up in 12-step fellowships for so long, and it just didn't work. I kept on failing, and every time I would fail, I would feel even more, fucked up. And then finally, the way I was able to get help was by a psychiatrist that said, "Hey, we're going to try MAT treatment for you." And they gave me this medication that helped me to get my life together to where I could actually function and not be obsessing over drugs. And then, my life has improved so much since then that I've been able to get down to like a little itty bitty piece. And I'm kind of just chilling at that right now because I want to stay safe while my little boy is young, But I had a really bad experience. And I know a lot of people who follow me are on medication assisted treatment. Or maybe they're Cali sober and they've had really bad experiences. So I was thinking, I would love for you to come on and share like about the freedom model, how you guys came about like creating it, why you created it, what your experience was when you were getting sober. And so basically I'm just gonna let you talk, and if I have any questions, I'll just ask you.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
My name is Mark. My name is Mark Sharon, and I started the freedom model when I was 19 years old. I'm 52 years old now.
Wow.
And I grew up in an AA household. Treatment was a big part of who we were as a family. My mom was a counselor. She was totally indoctrinated in AA, and she indoctrinated all her kids. I think 8 out of us went to therapy and or rehab at some point out of 12 siblings, kids. I'm the youngest of the crew. So rehab was just a normal part of my life. When I was 7 years old, I was being smuggled into halfway houses where my mother would work. And so, which is a very bizarre thing. So I would spend weekends where other kids were playing baseball. I was learning about addiction and about recovery and this whole weird alternate world. And so my whole life, literally from my first memories, I can remember being 5 and wondering where my mom was. And they said, well, she's at her meetings. So I remember from there all the way to the moment that we are talking about it. This is all I've done. This is all I've studied. And so there was a 6-year period from the age of 12 to 18 where I fulfilled the prophecy. They kept saying, Mark, you're going to be an alcoholic. Mark, you're going to be a drug addict. Your genetics are conspiring against you. You're going to have a brain disease. In those days, it wasn't a brain disease. In the 80s, it was just you have a disease, an illness, and maybe it's genetic, and all this hyperbole and all this mythology being fed to me. And in addition to that, of course, you have the beer commercial saying how magical it is. And then you're getting high with your buddies. And for 4 years, I had a blast. I had an absolute blast. But I was always feeling shameful, guilty, and always thinking, oh, I'm an alcoholic. And And once I started drinking and drugging, I never stopped because I thought that it was predestined that I was going to be fucked up. And I ended up in very serious condition at 18 years old. Almost killed a couple of my buddies drunk driving, went to jail, did the whole thing. And then they sucked me into treatment. But here's the important part about my story. And this is where the freedom model comes from. When I got in the car accident, 6 months prior to that, I was sitting at a party, this huge party that I had. And I was in the bathroom smoking cocaine, and then I was doing mushrooms, and I was drinking for 2 days, and I was supposed to be having fun. And I realized that my body was as saturated with drugs as it possibly. I felt like I was going to overdose soon. I was tipping over that edge, and I was falling apart. But my mind, my thoughts were, I don't even like this. And I realized that my mind was sober, that I could still think clearly, even though I was totally aware that my body was completely fucked up.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I realized something. I said, my God, there's no magic in drugs. All this magic is me thinking that it's magical. And from that moment, for 6 months, I quit all the drugs that night. I stopped all the cocaine, the pot, the mushrooms, everything. And then I just concentrated on drinking. I drank every day. I hid my drinking. I started at 10 in the morning, and I would stop until I passed out. And I did that, and I was hiding a lot of my drinking. And then I got in this car accident, and that was just the excuse to be able to finally stop. And I stopped. And I said, you know what? I'm going to detox myself in a dorm room bathroom, which I did for 3 days, which was really dangerous and stupid. I didn't realize how bad that was going to be. I was hallucinating.
Yeah.
And then, so there's a point to this whole lineage that's really important for your listeners to hear. So there's context to where this all came from. So I just decided at that moment, after I detoxed myself, I had already done the jail thing. They put me in jail for the night, and then I got out, and I was going to go back to jail because all the charges that were against me. But I had this window of about 6 months before the courts were going to catch up with me. And my life took off. I just said to myself, I was homeless. I had no family. I had no license. I had no money. I had no friends. My girlfriend left me. I was literally at a base misery, and yet I was quietly happy because I said, you know what? I get to start completely over. And I came up with this self-image of the good citizen, this phrase, I'm going to be the good citizen, because I was never that. I was totally fucked up, always in fistfights, in jail, all that kind of stuff. And from the moment I made that decision to about 6 months, my life trajectory went up, totally linear. I was rebuilding my life. My entire existence was getting better and better and better. And then the courts caught up with me and put me in rehab. And I said to the courts, I said, listen, I've been sober for 6 months. There's no reason for me to be doing this. I literally, you could drug test me today. I've got my life together. I'm back enrolled in college. I'm doing all these things. And they said, no, you got to go to AA. You have to go to treatment. So they stuffed me in treatment for a year. I refused to say I was an alcoholic. I said, I'm not an alcoholic. They said, you're going to have to embrace your disease. I said, fuck you. I'm not. This isn't who I am. I used to be, but this isn't who I am. And somehow I knew that was right. And then it got to the end of the year, and they said, you still have to admit it, or we're going to add 30 days. And I said, well, fuck you. Add 30 days.
What?
So they added 30 days, and they added another 30 days. Then they added another. And after 6 more months, I started to, and this is why the freedom model exists, I started to reframe my entire actual existence. I started to believe them. I started to believe that I was this broken person. I started to believe that I was an alcoholic. I hadn't drank in at that point, 1.5 years, almost 2 years actually. And I became hopeless. They said, you're going to be in recovery the rest of your life. And that was so utterly bleak to me. And I said that I can't do that. I'm 19, turning 20 at this point. And I said, I'm not doing that. So I went to my mother's house. I admitted that I was an alcoholic, right? I gave up my rights. I went home and I put a gun in my mouth. I put my hunting rifle in my mouth, and I was going to shoot myself. And that is where the freedom model starts. That was December 1989. I had the gun in my mouth. I cocked the hammer. It was a 30-30 carbine rifle. And I was about to shoot myself. And I had this real clear moment. It wasn't spiritual. There was no God. There was nothing like that. It was just I realized I was better before treatment. And that's when I knew I had to change things. And I dedicated myself to research. And I was always kind of a smart kid. I was very street smart. I could read a room. And then I met Jerry Brown that night, and he was a career researcher, which is very weird. And that is Michelle Dunbar's father, who Michelle is always doing the podcast with me, and we've worked together. And so that was 33 years ago. And we started the research. Took me 12 years to get out of AA, to undo all the labyrinth of bullshit that I was infected with in my mind. And also the paradigm in our country and Western culture that teaches people that they're these sick, broken people. And I walked out. I researched my way out of that labyrinth, and I came out with the freedom model, which is that humans, which ironically is where I started at the accident site, where I said, I'm going to change my life and be the good citizen. Yeah. I now basically show people, get rid of all the mythology, debunk all the lies that you've been told, and then it becomes very easy to change your mind and move on. So that's essentially my whole story.
I believe, like, whenever I first found y'all's accounts, I really believe the whole, like, what you say and speak and believe in your heart and mind is what will happen. I really do believe that, you know? And the reason why is because after I did get sober and I started working on myself, I was always so negative, and I would tell myself I couldn't achieve things and I wouldn't be able to make it. And one day I was like, I'm going to stop doing this. And I started speaking positively to myself. And when I started doing that internally and out loud, I started to be better and do better. And so when I first found y'all's account, I was really like, damn, dude, this is like something that I believe, you know. But then I started getting scared because y'all talk about moderation. So tell me, that was what I was like, because for me, like, sure, I mean, I guess I could do it, but I guess if I put my mind to it, I could do it. And that's the thing, like, is it a good idea for me to put my mind to it? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what kind of caught me off guard. I love the whole idea of, like, getting away from AA, deprogramming from AA. Like, I'm serious. Like, I've went through some abusive, just not good situations being in AA for so many years, over 10 years. And being the failure that never was able to accomplish sobriety through the program, you know? And so I totally get down with what you're putting down about changing the way you think and realizing, like, all the powers within you. You can make choices to do drugs or not to do drugs. And I like what you say about, you know, drugs are not magical. They're not jumping off the plate and going up your nose, you know? Like, that's true. They're not. I'm making a conscious choice to stick them in my body, you know?
Right.
So that was what attracted me to y'all, is just so you know.
Yeah. And that usually is what attracts people to us, is they want to be free. They want to move on. People, and I think they intuitively know that being stuck in a subcultural recovery is weird. I think people generally feel that way, but they don't know that there's a different way. So let's hit this moderation thing, because it's funny that you would bring that up, but not so funny. So I start the freedom model text with a line that says anybody can moderate their use successfully, regardless of how bad their habit was. And I argued with Steve and Michelle, who are the co-authors with me, for a long time to be able to add that as the seminal thing. And I do it, and they agreed with me. They finally agreed, and it has caused us a tremendous amount of trouble, but it has defined us as the difference in the research world. And here's why. When I say that, I'm not advocating for moderation. What I'm saying is that if you're fearful of a drug for any reason, you have given it more power than it actually objectively has. Anybody can moderate. Now, should you moderate? That's totally up to you. And so here's the deal. When it comes to drugs like alcohol, which are socially accepted, it's a lot easier to moderate simply because it doesn't have all the bullshit attached to it. If I was now, are there moderate meth users? Yes, there's actually quite a few of them. We give kids Adderall every day and adults Adderall every day, and it's pharmaceutical grade methamphetamine. That's what it is.
Right.
Is there moderate users of opiates? My God, there's tens of millions of them every year that get scripts and don't finish them. So this idea that we are automatically, addicted to these drugs and they're addicted is bullshit. It's just fucking bullshit. So there's these tens of millions of people all over the globe, hundreds of millions of them across the globe, that every day are moderately using all kinds of drugs. So this idea that there's a subset of people that can't is a lie. Now, it's a lie because there is nothing that's different between the guy that likes heavy use and the guy that likes to moderately use or throws his script out the next day when he's had after 4 tablets of hydros, whatever. The only difference is the belief that the person carries. And the research shows this over and over and over again, constantly. So there is no power in a drug to compel somebody to use. There's no research that shows it, except for treatment research, which is bullshit. You can pick it apart in a heartbeat. So I wanted to hit that moderate. I wanted to make that claim and make that statement so that the person goes, "Oh, this is different. That scared me." Okay.
Yeah.
But also let me read on and see what these people have to say. So I'm not advocating for moderation. I'm not advocating for heavy use, and I'm not advocating for abstinence. What I'm advocating for is that that you're free to choose whatever you want without fear. Now, that can only happen with a full understanding of, and it has to crystallize in your mind, of the entire Freedom Model curriculum, where we go through from A to Z, all the research that debunks all of it. And then you can decide and say, well, what do I actually want? Now, I don't know many people that had a heavy use with opiates or meth or anything that go back to that in some sort of casual way. I do know some. I do. I know some people that do it. But usually the person that's a heavy meth user was doing that because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted heavy use, and then they say, well, I want to moderately use. And I go, no, you want to use heavily without consequences. That's different than moderate use. Okay.
Yeah. When I used meth, I wanted to be high, like really high,
Yeah.
I also think that maybe for some people that we were using drugs because maybe we had ADHD and we never got treated for it. And maybe that was something that made us want to go out and use stimulants. That wasn't my case. My case was I was experimenting. I was hanging out with people. I was young and I was dumb and I made some bad decisions and I started using drugs and I liked the way they made me feel. I really enjoyed getting high. If I could continue getting high today, and not fuck up my life, I would probably still be doing it.
Right. So the question is that possible? Yes, of course that's possible. But it's not possible if your appetite is to be fucked up out of your mind.
Right. And that's my appetite.
Right.
I'm being honest,
Right. So that now you're in a conundrum. So if your appetite and your desire of your mind is that you have the drug on a pedestal and it's still really important that you get fucked up out of your mind, well, then that's what you actually want. Now that has to be studied. That has to be looked at and broken down. Why do I like it? Now, every single student that I work with, that I coach, everybody, and I've done this for 25,000 people, I go, why do you like it? And do you know that to a person, they struggle to describe all the real reasons? It usually takes me anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks to really get them to let go of shame, embarrassment, and the habit of hiding the fact that they fucking love it. Okay? So they might say, oh, I love to get high. And I say, why? And they go, I don't know. And I go, no, that's not
I know why. I like having the energy. I like not feeling. I like not being in reality. I like being in my own little zone. You know what I mean?
Okay. You just said three. You just said, here, I'll do a quick lesson with you. You just said 3 things that are not objectively true. A drug can't take away the world. A drug can't. There's one thing that you said that was absolutely 100%.
I feel like I'm in my own world.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Okay. But you were taught that. You were taught that you're in your own world. You were taught that there's a magical thing called crystal meth that makes problems go away. And so when you take the hit and you feel the rush, you feel a physical sensation that you find pleasurable. A lot of people don't, by the way. You feel that physical pleasure. Then you match up what you've been taught, we call it a learned connection, to that physical sensation. But what you've been taught is an idea. So it's not the drug making you lose yourself. It's you deciding to lose yourself when you feel the physical rush. That's a huge distinction. Okay. So we have what's called an active placebo, but I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole lesson in and of itself. But the point is, when you feel a physical sensation, and this is true of all drug taking people, they like the physical sensation, and then they marry a thought that they were taught to that sensation, and they say, yes, it's the drug that's doing that. It's not. It's your own mind interpreting the physical sensation. So your mind, not your brain, but your mind, your metaphysical thoughts, your ideas that you were taught about the power of crystal meth to take everything away, and it's the most amazing fucking thing in the world, all right? It hijacks your brain tissue and does all this amazing shit, which is not true, by the way.
Hold on. How did that, like, because I hear doctors even say that these substances hijack hijack our brain and then our neural pathway. Like, how do we find out that that's not true? Like, can you explain that to me?
Yeah, super simple, super simple. So all the studies that were done with the PET scans took a group of people and they said, okay, let's take a scan. Let's take a scan of people that don't do meth. Here it is. Let's take a scan of somebody at the height of brain change, which you can see. You know, the one is a healthy brain, the next one's kind of fucked up. And then 14 months later, let's look at the brain and see how after they've stopped, what does it look like after they stopped for a period of time, right? So that at that blanket sort of statement, it sounds like, my God, the brain is, you know, changed, and these people are addicts because that's what we call them. And then their brains heal over a period of time. And it's very subjective about how long a period of time. I'll get into that in a minute. But here's what's hilarious. In every one of these studies, I asked a very simple question of the research. I said, well, did everybody get chained to a wall when their brain was changed? How the fuck did they stop? Because isn't the theory that your brain tissue has been so hijacked that you're compelled to use beyond your will? So yeah. How did every single study subject stop at the height of brain change? In the study, the very study to prove that people are hijacked proved they weren't. They all stopped. The researchers said, stop. And they go, okay. And so they stopped and they take another brain scan. They stopped at the height of brain change. And nobody was saying this. Nobody was looking at the research going, hey, wait a minute. Everybody in the study subject, all the study subjects stopped while their brain was supposedly hijacked and compelling them to use. But they all stopped. They all stopped. So were they chained to a wall going, give me my fucking meth, right? Because they're compelled because their brain is hijacked? No. The study subjects were told, here, hey, stop. You're in this. Your brain has changed. We want to take a look at it. We want you to stop. And they go, okay, I'll stop. Take a post scan. But I thought that they're compelled to use. I thought they can't stop. You see?
Yeah. When I was like that, but what made me stop was my child got taken away from me, and I made the decision that day to go into detox and get help because losing my child was more important to me than going and getting high. And so I chose that day that I was not going to get high. That I was going to get my son back and I was going to be sober.
That's right. So you just said two words that show you that your mind, you said, I decided and I choose. And then everybody blows by that and say, oh yeah, your kid saved your life. I get it. Did you get help? Yeah, I took these other mat drugs. I did all this stuff. No, you decided. Without your decision, nothing could have happened. Nothing. You would have continued. If you hadn't decided to change your view about the drug and see your kid as more important, without that decision, you literally would still be getting high without your children. Right. And people do that all the time. They decide that I don't give a shit about my kids. My mom did it. She just didn't want kids. She didn't want 12 kids. She left when I was 7. She just said, I really don't want to be a mom anymore. So these things, but you chose and you decided. And without that, nothing could have changed. So is it your kid? Is it some sort of external set of circumstances that forced you and compelled you? Or did you observe something outside of you and then internally decide, I'm going to change who I am? And that's exactly what you did. And that's what every single quote unquote addict does when they stop. They choose the AA meeting or the NA meeting over the bar. But that doesn't mean there's magic in the AA meeting. The AA meeting doesn't make them somehow sober, but they say that. They actually say, yeah, AA saved my life. No, it didn't. You saved your life.
You saved your life. Yeah, I hate that. Yeah. We put in a lot of work, I feel like people give too much credit to, the program. And really it was them putting the work behind what they were doing to get sober. Like I made the choice to get sober. But then what about people who, I guess, the people who don't make the choice is that they just don't want to get sober at that time. And there was times where before my son was born where I made the choice to not get sober because I didn't want to be sober. But when I had my son, I had so much to lose in my son that to me was just overwhelmingly proof that I didn't need to use anymore, and that I needed to change.
Well, let's look at the person who gives up everything, right? I was pretty close to that. I pretty much gave up everything to get fucked up for a long time. And I felt very hopeless. I felt very lost. And I've met a world of those people and my heart goes out to them. But the problem that they have is not that the drug has them compelled to use, because we just proved, even with a drug like crystal meth or alcohol, that people can stop even when their brains are changed. The studies prove that. Okay? So there's no compulsion. What there is are decisions that people make based on the information they have. But if the information is, hey, you're an addict for life, you'll never not crave, and alcohol and drugs are magical in these various ways, and you're never going to be happy like you were with your heroin. Nothing's going to be like that warm blanket. And that kind of language and nonsense of building the drug up, once believed, becomes the person's truth, and it becomes exceedingly hard to stop a drug habit when somebody believes that it's actually that magical. So our beliefs are really, really tied to everything when it comes to drug use. So my job in the freedom model is to show you with every drug, we devalue it. We go through the research and I say, does it actually take stress away? Stress in the mind? Does it make your bills get paid? Does it make it so that the stress of being a mom is lessened? Does it make you more beautiful? Does it give you the license to misbehave and go and hook up and have sex? Does it allow you to fight if you need to because you're scared to fight, but you're at the bar and now you can fight? Does Jack Daniels make you fight, but beer make you a better lover? See, this is all nonsense. You have to understand, but our culture drives it. Western culture drives it. It sells a lot of drugs.
That's what I was going to say. These are things that I heard when I was a kid growing up. You know what I mean? And so this is stuff that I've learned over years and years and years and years and years. And so I do understand what you're saying, that like after hearing for so many years that, drugs fuck you up, you're going to die. Red Ribbon Week is next week at my son's school. Okay. And they're learning about just saying no to drugs. And so it's like, I'm kind of like, oh my God, I'm like hearing what you're saying, because when they're little, they're starting us out when we're little like that, learning about how horrible drugs are. And it's like, kind of like a training almost,
Yeah, well, it is a training. It is a training. I pulled my kids right out of that shit. And I gave all my school officials a copy of the freedom model. And they actually said to me, we have to teach this. We'd be fired if we taught the freedom model. That's how communist this has become when it comes to drugs and alcohol. The belief, the treatment lobby is so profound. It's $45 billion. They don't want you to get your life together. They want what's called the revolving door policy of you to just relapse and keep circulating, because it's $45 billion in the United States alone. It's a juggernaut of money.
And
The booze
because I've seen it with my own eyes with people who get people into treatment, not wanting them to get on MAT, because if they get on MAT, then they're not going out and getting high and relapsing all the time. They're not coming back through the rehab a million times. So I do 100% believe that, I've seen it with my own eyes that it's just it was a waste of time. 6 of the times I went to treatment, it was a waste of time, because I already learned what I needed to learn at the beginning, which was, when I went in there and I learned about stopping using drugs, this, that, and the third, and all those other times were just like, I was just there. I was literally like hanging out, you know what I mean? And so I wasted all that time and money on going in and out of treatment, and it wasn't beneficial to me at that time. It wasn't beneficial to me until I feel like the real last time, and that was because I had my mind made up that I wanted to change.
That's it. Well, that's it. It's a matter of the mind. You keep saying exactly the solution. But of course, now let's go in the Matt direction. So I predicted 6 years ago that Matt would turn into a total clusterfuck, which it has now turned into, that people need Suboxone for life. Because when you start a harm reduction conversation with the best we can do is reduce harm, it's the disease in new clothing. It's just the same old washed out argument that people are broken, and the best we can do is hope that they take heroin light and Suboxone, and that's lunacy. That's lunacy. Now, Suboxone is a wonderful drug to get somebody off of heroin, and then you taper them down. And I watch detoxes do that all the time. But I see more and more and more and more now that people are put on this shit for life, because the argument is you're too fucking weak to be able to stop. And it's never been a matter of weakness. But if somebody believes that, now they're subservient to the pharmaceutical industry instead of Jamal on the corner. So you have this terrible situation that we've created where the pharmaceutical companies wanted in on the action. They wanted street cred, and now they have it. And it's really sad, because people don't need to be on this. Why wouldn't we tell every single person with a problem, hey, first thing you need to know is that over 90% of you will get over the problem, whether you're treated or not. And you may have to go through a window of detox, but it's probably anywhere between 3 and 14 days max, and you're going to be okay. With the exception of those of you on methadone or high dose Suboxone, it might be a little longer. But you get through that window, you'll be okay. We'll taper you down, and you know what? You can move on with your life. Did you know that? And every single person would say, no, nobody's ever fucking told me that. No, I didn't know that.
Well,
they told me it's a lifelong
struggle. What they say is the risks versus the benefits. The risk of you getting off could be you relapsing and dying. You know what I mean? So it's beneficial for you to stay on this medication, because we don't want you to relapse and die. I mean, that's been my experience going to my own Suboxone doctor. I know. Just fighting and going back and forth with tapering and stuff.
Right. So how is that any different than a drug dealer telling you, hey, you're going to be dope sick as shit if you don't get your goods? It's the same thing. It's the same argument. But now it's medical treatment. Well, how is it how is the dealer, and I know many of them, right? I know them, some of my friends. How come the dealer doesn't get credit like that? The doctor can say, hey, you need this for the rest of your life, in their lab coat, right? Which is a lie. Which is a blatant lie. You don't need it.
Yeah,
you've never needed it.
I believe that I don't need Suboxone for the rest of my life. Do I believe that it has benefited me to be on it as long as I have? Yes, absolutely, 100%. But do I believe that I'll be on it for the rest of my life? No, I don't think I will be. I don't want to be, so I know I won't be. You know what I mean? When I want to get off of it, when I want to get off Suboxone, I'll get off Suboxone. Right now, it's benefiting me and it's helping me, and it really has helped me to stay steady. And so, whether that be because I want to stay steady,
I want to know though. I want to know how does Suboxone know how to help you?
Well,
I want to know this.
Honestly, like just having that something extra every morning, I can take it to start my day. I know I'm going to take my medication. I'm going to be okay. And I know a lot of people will say the same thing, or they might be ashamed to say that, but it's like, that helps me to be able to go through my day. That sounds kind of sad, doesn't it? But
no, it doesn't sound sad. I'm not judging it, but I do want to explore it because that's no different than you taking meth. And that's
right,
okay.
I understand that.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with taking meth. When I deal with somebody, I'm like, obviously you love it. I used to love being completely out of my mind for days on end. It was a lot of fun for a while, and then it was not so fun, but I still liked it, until I didn't, and then I moved on. So the point is that there is the Sinclair method, right? Naltrexone, all of it. We go through the stats on it, and it's no better than placebo because it is an active placebo. It gives you a feeling of security only because that's what you've been sold. You've been told that. So now you believe it, and it becomes your security blanket. But the drug isn't doing that. The drug isn't going into your mind and giving you a sense of well-being. It can't do that because it can't leave your bloodstream as a molecule, go into the metaphysical realm of your mind, know what you're thinking. I mean, that would be a remarkable fucking drug with trillions of neurons. It knows just the pathway of that thought at that moment and gives you relief. I think it's more probable to say that you've been sold that it's going to give you relief. So therefore you frame it that way. You take your active placebo, you get a slight sensation from Suboxone, and you feel better. But you could do that with a sugar pill. You could do that with a beer. You could do it with a race car driving down the road in a convertible Mustang. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever you like. You've just been sold that. And so
yeah, man, I have been sold this idea for a very, very long time. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it makes me super uncomfortable to like question things.
Yeah,
it like makes me nervous.
I know, but don't be. Keep taking it and just learn and keep taking it and learn. And then there comes a day where enough data, you keep exploring. It took me 12 years to leave the cult of AA because that was my blanket. That was my Suboxone, right?
Yeah.
12 years every day. I never missed a day. 3,600 and some odd meetings I went to. I was a guru. I was a big book thumper. I was an AA historian. I did it all because I thought I needed that. But something happened. And that was, I kept questioning and said, is that what my life is really about? Am I broken somehow that I need to be in a subculture? And in your case, the question would be a little different. It would be, am I broken where I need Suboxone, which, by the way, has nothing to do with methamphetamine use. I don't even know why.
I know. I was shooting. That's because I was shooting oxys too. I was addicted to. I was a poly substance abuser, so I was addicted to meth, opiates, and Xanax, all interchangeably at the same time. Like I would use them together if I wanted, just craziness, And so when I got sober, honestly, meth was the easiest drug for me to get off of, like withdrawal wise and all that. Now, as far as like me kind of thinking about it and obsessing about it, it's been the hardest one for me to not get out of my mind because I equate good experiences, energy, production, skinniness with being on methamphetamine. So the opiates, oh God, honestly, I went through withdrawal. I was completely off of opiates for 30 days before I even got put on Suboxone.
That is completely insane to me that they did that to you. That is just absolutely crazy. That makes me nuts.
And I'll tell you what happened. My husband had gotten on it while I was in treatment. He was out here in the real world having to work and do all the husband stuff. So when I got out, my addict mind was like, I can't not take his Suboxone. I'm going to take his fucking Suboxone. Like I know I'm going to take it. So I went to the psychiatrist, talked to him about it, and this is what he said to me. He said, this drug was created for people like you, chronic relapsers. This drug is going to save you. And so I got on it, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, this drug is amazing. It saved my life. But now when I think about it, like I put in so much work to change. Like I used to steal, lie, and cheat. I used to be so bad. And I have felonies on my record. And now like I literally live my life every day trying to help people find sobriety. Some way, somehow. Right. That's what I like to have people like you on, even though your opinions might not be popular with people on TikTok. Like, I want to give you a chance to share that, because there might be somebody out there that can get help through that. You know what I mean? Because I know for me that AA and NA, they've really turned me off, man. And I know how many other people have experienced the same thing. So I want to help people find another option, you know?
Well, there's a portion in our book that takes care of the MAT argument and the brain disease argument. Let me tell you where they are. It's in chapter 2 called Indirect Processes of Change. That's the MAT argument. And then appendice A and B deals with loss of control myth and the brain disease myth. And we eviscerate all of it with the data. Here's the deal. I'm not telling you to stop taking Suboxone. I'm not telling you. Yeah, but I want the audience to hear this. I think it's really important. They're going to be like, I can't believe how irresponsible. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling anybody to stop drinking their case of beer. I don't give a shit. People should do exactly what they want to do. But I do want to say that you should know the facts. And if you know the facts, it's very easy to be completely free of all this, all recovery, all of it, and just live your life with no fear. I was a guy, in the end, I was drinking. I would go down to a Grand Union Mart in Route 7 in Cobblestone, New York, so my friends wouldn't see me. I had a fake ID, and I would go and get a 6-pack, and I would drink it behind the dumpster. That would set me straight, right? Then I would go to classes, kinda, and then I would start partying with the freshmen because they were all, partying for the first time, and I would drink a bottle of vodka. And I would just kind of sit in the back of the room, and it was fun. It was fun. But I really wasn't having fun because inside I was dying. I felt like I was literally falling apart emotionally and wanting to blow my head off. And then one day I started to realize, I don't have to do this anymore. And I told you that whole story. And then when I was like 40, I have to say like 43, 44, 42, I said, I'm going to drink again. So I was at a hotel doing a company offsite, and there was those little bottles of liquor, and I drank one, and I was like, oh, this is very familiar. And I was like waiting for something cataclysmic. Like, now I'd already done all the research. I knew that there was no power. And I was like, holy shit, that was really anticlimactic. I just don't give a shit. And then I'm such a cheap bastard. I only took a sip. So I took it and I matched the cap with the little label, and I stuffed it back in so I didn't have to pay for it. And then since then I moderately drink probably once or twice every couple weeks. I have a couple of beers with my son or whatever, and that's it. And but I was abstinent for 21 years. I did the research. It all crystallized. If you still have any vestige of fear of any substance whatsoever, it means you still overvalue it. It means that you have given it a place in your mind that is inappropriate, that is inaccurate, and simply wrong, factually incorrect, because a drug is meaningless. It doesn't have powers. Every power we attribute to it, except for the physical sensation, every mental, emotional feeling we have about a drug is something that we have made up. People have such a hard time with this. I have to go over it in a million little ways. And if you read our entire book or do our online program or do our coaching, whatever it is.
I have the online. I mean, I have the book that you sent to us through the website or through the online. I bought it like the ebook or whatever. So I have it on my email. My email. And so I just started out at the very beginning. I haven't read any of it, but I'll tell you, man, people were tearing me to shreds for even thinking like, hey, maybe we can do these things, And I'll tell you, I have had a margarita when I went on vacation with my husband, and I literally felt so emotional about it because I felt like shame because I was having this margarita, and I actually I felt like a regular person. You know what I mean? Like I was just person.
You are a regular person.
I didn't want to go out and get high because I drank that margarita. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Whenever we connect that somebody taught you that one drink equals a drunk, one drink equals methamphetamine, and you're going to fall apart and it's all going to cascade. But the data doesn't show that. You got to stop believing that. Now, I'm not advocating use. That's not the point. I abstained for 21 years. So I don't know why people automatically go there. What I'm advocating is truth. And let's take that drug off the pedestal and stop romanticizing it. Now, in order to do that, you got to have a tremendous amount of data, because you have had data of mythology drilled into you, especially with the Recovery Society. Holy shit. And now with Matt, forget it. I mean, we're living in la la land. But that shame, my God, why would you feel shame?
I know, I'm a 40-year-old woman. Like, I should be able to do that and not be ashamed of it. But I was like literally waiting for somebody to pop out of the fucking corner that's from AA or something and be like, booga booga, I got you, you're caught, you relapsed.
Yeah, take her coin.
That's literally how I felt. But then what I did was I came back and I shared about it. I was like, you guys, I had a margarita and I felt so uncomfortable and so weird and almost emotional about it. And other people were like, well, I can drink and, not go out and get high. And so many people that I know from TikTok, and this has opened my mind too, that they drink, they just don't do drugs. And so, but they can drink and they're fine.
That's me. Yeah, that's me. And alcohol ended up being, go ahead.
I thought that if I drank alcohol, that this was going to somehow like lead me back to methamphetamine, cocaine, Xanax, or opiates, and what I really believe for me is I don't want it to do that. So it's not going to happen. I don't want to lose my son. I don't want to break my family up. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to lose my job. And so because I have these things that mean more to me now, that's why I stay sober. Whenever I was using drugs, I didn't have anything that I kind of valued like that. And I just valued getting high. Drugs were like the best thing,
Right.
And so I just stayed getting high.
Yeah. Well, we know, here's the deal. You talked about how easy it is to get off of meth, right? Initially, because there's no detox with it. There's no physical ramifications of crystal meth, right? I mean, there really isn't. It's very hard to OD on it. And it's got a 99% remission rate, natural remission rate. In other words, nobody does meth for very long. It's incredibly rare. Now, then I get a student that says to me, dude, I know meth heads have been doing it for 30 years. And I go, yeah, 3 of them, and our population is 370 million. You happen to be in a bad crowd, because you like to get fucked up a lot, So we tend with anecdotal data to think, especially if we've been sucked into the Recovery Society and we're relapsing there, we think that everybody is behaving this way. And it's just not true. 99% with methamphetamine, 98% with cocaine, 96% with heroin, 91% with alcohol. So 9 out of 10 times we evolve naturally as we grow in age out of the problem. Where we don't is when we get put in the recovery trap till somebody teaches you that that's not possible. And then, and all that mythology, romanticized drug, your brain is hijacked, and oh my God, you're never going to get over this. And it's going to be a struggle the rest of your life. And then you're like, fuck it. The only thing I like is drugs, because if it's going to be a fucking struggle, you'll be like me with a gun in your mouth. I mean, it's crazy what we're doing. It's crazy. So what you just described is actually the natural process of, I have a child, I have things to live for that are more beneficial. And wait till you read my chapter on the positive drive principle. You're going to be blown away. Okay. So you have the ebook, which is just a tiny abridged version to give people a taste of things. I hope you get the real book. It's 470 pages or something, and read the whole damn thing. I tell people that all the time. Or get the audio book and just listen to it, Yeah,
that's easy. I read the whole big book. I read the whole big book. I don't even know how many times. Even the damn stories in the back.
Me too. I used to teach that shit. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. I just think I'm telling you, man, like, it's so hard to go against what the recovery community and what they believe. Like, I'm just me coming on here and having you talk about this. Like, people are angry. They're commenting and saying, I gotta go. This is not, blah, blah, blah. Just because I'm actually like listening and actually thinking, you know what? I can see what you're putting down. It makes sense to me. And that's what I'm about. Like, does it make sense? Okay. Yeah, this makes sense. And what I'm saying out of my mouth is exactly what I did. I quit using drugs. I loved my son more than I love drugs. I wanted to change. I'm 40 years old. I'm getting too old for that shit. I want to have a life, a car, a house, a husband, and so my life changed, and me and my husband just got to a point in our lives where we were like, yeah, we want to do better for our lives, and I never looked at it that way. I always looked at it as like some miracle that happened, that I was, taken away from drugs miraculously, like God saved me or something.
Yeah, I know. Look, I this is all I've done for 33 years is figure all this shit out. And I know it's hard for people. It's hard because people don't have the data. Because I took what Stanton Peele did, Jeffrey Shaler, Carl Hart, Lance Dotis, Mark Lewis, and all the years of me helping people and me matriculating out of the cult. And you take all that experience, and then you have Steve Slate, my colleague, Michelle Dunbar, Brian Schwantez, Jerry Brent, my crew. And you take all that stuff, and all of a sudden you put all these pieces together of all these amazing researchers. And that's what we did. And when the body is put together, you're like, holy shit, there's nothing to be afraid of. Here's a quick example. So I'll tell 2 quick stories, and I don't want to hold you forever.
But then after you tell the quick stories, what I want you to do is I would like for you to let people know where they can find the Freedom Model, how they can get a hold of you guys. And then I would like for you to send me the links to all this stuff. So when I post this video on YouTube, they can go in the description in the comment section and see, oh, hey, I wanted to talk to Mark. And they can say, I'll do it right here. And they can click the link and get to you. Okay.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So the first story. So I meet Jerry. This is post-treatment. I decided to be the good citizen. I decide to be a researcher. And I said, I'll be a research assistant. He was a career researcher. And he goes, okay, I called the Union Inn, which is a bar down in Schenectady, New York. And I'm going to have you sit with a notebook from 10 a.m. when they open till, I forget, I think it was like 4 o'clock. He goes, after 4 o'clock, you won't be able to do what I want you to do. I said, okay, what do you want me to do? He goes, I talked to the bartender, sit in the corner, and I want you to write down what people drink, how they behave, who they are, not by name, but describe what's happening in the bar. I said, is that it? And he goes, yep. And then come back and report to me. So I sit there that whole time, had a sandwich. I'm writing, watching. I get back to the Baldwin house, which is what we called it. And I had my report, and he said, so what did you see? I said, well, I saw a girl basically crying in her beer. I saw a businessman come in, have 2 beers. He looked a little discontented. I saw 3 guys and 2 girls playing darts and obviously flirting and drinking heavily and being hilarious. To be honest, it was kind of funny. They had me laughing. I watched 2 guys get in an argument. They go out front. They start wrestling. I realized as a boxer, I was like, they don't know how to fight because they're just kind of throwing each other around. And it ended up they were 2 cops and they had just finished their shift. So then the state or the Schenectady police showed up and they're like, dude, what are you doing? You're in the public fighting. Are you shitting me? So that was kind of entertaining. And then a guy and a girl went in the bathroom and had sex. So I wrote all this stuff, right? And so Jerry looks at me and goes, do you find anything peculiar about that? And I said, well, I don't know, the fighting, peculiar, the sex in the bathroom. I said, it's all kind of the bar scene, really. And he goes, how can one molecule, every single person in that bar had the same identical molecule in their bloodstream, right? Acetaldehyde, what alcohol turns into. And one was more sexual, one was fighting, one was indifferent, one was sad, and one was giddy and flirtatious. How can one molecule do all those different things with the human mind? I thought about that. I was like, either alcohol, acetaldehyde, is miraculous, right? Or maybe there's something else at play. And he goes, yeah, it's called being a human being and believing that alcohol can do all these different things. But a drug can't do opposite things or everything. An antibiotic doesn't kill bacteria, make bacteria, sometimes kill bacteria, and never kill bacteria, all simultaneously in the same room. It fucking kills bacteria. That's what drugs do. You know, so I suddenly started to realize with that one experiment that what we think about drugs is everything. Because the acetaldehyde, you know what it actually does? Makes us hot, makes us sloppy, and slows down the processor, but it doesn't slow down the mind. It slows down the processing of the mind. And that's it. It doesn't know what I'm thinking. It doesn't make me more sexual. Doesn't make me fight. Doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make me flirty. Those are all beliefs. But it does do something physical. So I married a physical. You see? So, and that's true about all drugs. Second story, very quick, is basically the same premise. And you can do this with drugs, but alcohol is easier because it's just studied more. But you take the Italian people, they drink more per capita, they drink young, and they don't have the problems we have. They drink a shitload, but they don't have the problems. How is it possible? And people say it's genetics. Really, genetics deal with your body. They don't deal with your mind. So they're Europeans, dude. We're all Europeans here, you know? And yet you can go across the border to France and they act a little bit different. And then you go to Germany and they act different. But there's no wall. There's no genetic change between these people. You know, it's like states, for God's sakes. It's the culture. It's the culture. And that's true with, you go to Afghanistan, you know, there's piles of heroin floating around and not everybody's diving in because for them, it's about commerce. It's about money. You go to Colombia, they're producing cocaine, but they're not using it, right? The question is, you have access to all these drugs and yet you don't use it. Why? Because to them, it means something different. You see? But we in America are Western and we're affluent and there's a huge amount of money that can be made by personifying drugs into these magical elixirs that cure everything. So we got to let go of that. So that's the lesson for today. That's a lot. We covered a lot of ground.
How much, this is, don't take this the wrong way, but how much have you been able to change people's minds? I mean, like, honestly, like, have you seen a dent be made in, you know, in the treatment industry? Because listen, I have never heard of the freedom model. Why haven't I heard of this before? I've been in recovery for 7 years, like, you know, I do interviews all the time. I never heard of it. Why not?
Okay. So
because y'all don't have a good marketing team. That's what it is. That's what it is.
well, that may be true, I think, but we have been seriously canceled and blackballed. My whole life was destroyed by AA. For about 8 years, I was in court with them. They destroyed my life. They destroyed my livelihood. They came after my family. They had undercover cops come in my house, raid my house with no warrants and threaten my family. If I would say that I was recovered, I shit you not. I was the first guy that pierced the veil of the treatment industry. So I had really horrible shit happen to me. And it just so happens that I don't give a fuck. I mean, I just kept moving forward, but it doesn't change the fact that Google canceled me. I was the very first person to do an addiction help program on the World Wide Web. And so I created the term non-12-step. That category exists because of Mark Sheeran. I came up with the term. Our website, I had the banner ad on top of Google for 2 years for $5,000 worldwide. And I had 3 retreats. I had an office in New York. And then the treatment conglomerates conspired and destroyed me. And Google complied and put us on page 10 in one day and destroyed my livelihood. And we've been struggling ever since. But now with the book gets everywhere. So we're doing much better. And I got rid of my retreats and I do everything online like this. And I reach a lot more people. I find it's much more gratuitous for me. And I can give away a ton more information for free. You know, the Addiction Solution podcast has become massive. We help people all around the world.
I've listened to that. I think Unconquered Healing pointed me in the direction of the podcast. I listened to that like a couple of months ago when this guy came on TikTok trying to get everybody to go to his recovery ranch. And everybody was like, oh, hell no. And something about treatment industries and how they would work their where they would not pay the clients to work and like work them and make them do all this stuff. And it was just like torturing them basically, like slaves. And so that's how I fell upon that podcast, is because Unconquered Healing told me to go there. But
yeah, he's cool. He's cool. I'm gonna be doing a show with him.
I hope you didn't take that the wrong way. Like but I do know what you mean by being canceled by, like, I have experienced the same thing in like the treatment world by people, because I speak out about the benefits of me utilizing Suboxone. They don't want to hear that. Oh, you're not supposed to be taking it. You know what I mean? So I understand. But to that level, man, where they went after your job and shit. And this is just me kind of like tooting on my own horn, but like the marketing team that I work for, like, we would blow your whole freaking business up. Y'all would have so many people coming to you that you would not be able to help them all.
Well, I think we would be able to help them all, because now we have everything online. So I guess we can segue into what is it?
Tell everybody where to find y'all.
Yeah. So it's super simple. Go to thefreedommodel.org, thefreedommodel.org, or call me at 888-424-2626. You can talk to me or Michelle. If you're female and you're more comfortable. Michelle's worked with me for 32 years. She's Jerry's daughter, and she kicks ass. And the Addiction Solution podcast, and the services we offer are very simple. You can get the book for free. You don't have to pay for it. You can go on Amazon and pay for it if you want to donate. That's fine.
Yeah, I went ahead and I donated for y'all. I went on Amazon because I was like, I'm not gonna get it for free. That's fucked up.
Yeah, but there are people out there that really can't afford even a book. So if you want to download it, go to thefreedommodel.org, and then use coupon code FREEDOM100. That's freedom and then digits 100 when you check out. Use that coupon code, and then you can download it to your phone or tablet for free. Amazon has the book as well. So we have the Freedom Model online program, which is me and Michelle teaching you the entire 470-page curriculum in 65 videos, pre-recorded videos. We also have Freedom Model for the family that helps the family understand what we're talking about, because families are totally immersed in the recovery model and think that their kids are screwed for life. And then I also have a piece in there that people love, which is the deprogramming from AA, where I go through the entire history of AA, and I deconstruct AA, the cult, the pyramid scheme, how they make their money, their millions of dollars. Everybody thinks AA is free, but it's not free. You pay with your allegiance and your life and money. And there's also a newsletter. There's so much value in that freaking thing. It's silly. But the entire solution is there for you as well. And then if you need coaching, we have our Freedom Model online coaching. All of that is described in thefreedommodel.org. And the coaching is 12 sessions to get you through the entire book and workbook series that we have. And everything we've been talking about today needs a thorough, nuanced understanding if you really don't want to be scared. If you're scared, don't try to moderate. For God's sakes, don't. Just abstain, because you're gonna fall apart with it until you understand how to see drugs differently. So that's it. Whew.
Thank you so much for coming on. Like, really, for real. I got a lot out of it. Just talking to you and sharing with you about my experiences and my situation. So I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel, so you'll have some people coming over there to your TikTok and everything. And I hope it helps you guys out. And I just really appreciate you guys sharing different ways to recover, because I want people to have other ways to recover. I don't want them to feel like that they have to be stuck in AA forever. So I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's important, because this message, there's so many people that want out of the trap and they just don't know how to do it. And I remember being there, and it's a tough spot to be. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. I'm going to talk to you later. I'm going to message you after this. I'm going to kick you off. That way you can end your live, and then I'll go in and mine. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Let me see. Bye. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on a minute. There we go.